Namaste, Salam Alaikum, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. This is Radha Podil, a nurse, author, and founder for Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation is a global network for changing the narratives around menstruation from 5 days bleeding to life cycle approach and from the hygiene to dignity. Global South Coalition initiated Dignified Menstruation Day for December 8 since 2019. This year, we have been celebrating 4th International Dignified Menstruation Day all around the globe. Altogether, 50 countries will be marking in different ways. As a pre-kick activities, we have this webinar series, and today we have a speaker from all the way UK. She is Dr. Meera Tiwari, Associate Professor at International Development Studies at the University of East London. Let's warm welcome to Dr. Meera. It's a great honor and honored and blessing to have you, Dr. Meera, in our webinar series. You have contributed a paper on period matters. And in this connection, would you like to share with us why did you choose this topic? What was the inspiration? Is there any association with your personal life? And also, what are the key findings of your research? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Radha. Thanks for inviting me, and congratulations on all the great work that you're doing. It's very inspiring. So thank you. I'm delighted to be part of this seminar series. So just a quick insight into what inspired me to do this. I've been working on global development and multidimensional sort of issues of development for over 2 decades. But this particular issue, I focused targeted research. I started, I think, in 2018. As a teenager, in growing up in India, I have to say I always tried to push the boundaries and defied the norms, tried to defy anyway, the norms that you shouldn't touch the pickle because it will go bad, you shouldn't do this. Nothing, actually I did it, I touched it many times, took it out without really telling, oh, I'm having a period, and then only to turn and tell my mother, you know, that a week before I did, look, the pickle is fine. So but that kind of sort of trying to push the boundaries, it remained there. In 2018, when I was or before that, between 2016 and 18, I was doing more fieldwork in rural Bihar. And I figured out there's no space for women to, I was doing my fieldwork and I wanted to use the toilet. Where do you go in the middle of the fields? Just the men are just sort of, as you know, in that part of the world, they don't need a toilet, or society accepts it. But what do you do for women? And then I started to realize, what about the menstrual, how are they changing? What are they doing about the sanitary regime, the practices? And in the meanwhile, this movie came out, which I thought was really quite The Padman. I thought it touched the real issues. Of course, it went into more technical fixes, which we see all around, important, but around us. So it does talk about stigma and taboo, the practices, the norms that impede, the menstrual health practices. So I think that was the real push. I said, okay, let me do my own research and see what is happening. And that's how I started to do it. So that was the inspiration, yeah. Would you like me to share some insights from research?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay, so we in a team of us, and starting with that itself is quite interesting, because our we needed a partner, a research partner in rural Bihar, in Bihar, which is where I was going to do this research. So I was talking to the director of the institute, who was, in the end, he came on board, and it was really supportive. So I told him, Professor Rao, we are doing this project. We'd really like you to be part of this. And I did it on purpose because I wanted a male member to be part of it. It's no point just talking to women. And my research shows this isn't a woman's issue. This is a societal concern. We need to be really embracing it as a practice, as a health concern. And it affects the woman, not just the woman, the family, the well-being of the family, the community. So it's a societal concern. Both male and female members of the society need to be comfortable talking about it. It's an essential bodily function. So I asked Professor Rao, would you like to, we'd really like you to participate. And his reaction was, yes, I'll ask these female colleagues to. So I just looked at him and said, why not you, Professor Rao? Because, and I explained to him, and I have to say, he was just pedal back and say, yes, of course, I will participate. So we had a team from our side also. We had Professor Alan Brimicom and my colleague Susanna. We went and we've done this. Then again, because based on earlier research on feticides in Haryana, we found this, that is also a societal concern. It's not just the woman. It's no point just talking to the woman. What are your challenges? How do you overcome? Unless you bring teenage boys and men on board. As for menstrual health, feticide also, you have to talk to the whole society. So, but talking to men in rural Bihar, for a woman to go and was going to be challenging, and that too on an issue like menstrual health, where it is considered a taboo to talk outside of the house, or that too just to the female members in the family, etc. So we hired two men from the community as researchers. So you can imagine hiring men and explaining to them, this is what your work is going to be. It was hard work. They came forward, and we trained them. It was hard training them, getting them to work with female colleagues, 3 female researchers, in exchanging notes, getting them to talk, to use the word menstrual health. It is, and in Hindi, because the whole thing was in Hindi, Mahavari, or how the practice in the term in rural Bihar is not Mahavari they use. They use the acronym, it's an English translation, which I was quite surprised. I kept saying Mahavari, and then they were looking like this. They use a term that I'll explain to you in a minute. So these men overcame all those resistances. We conducted about 300 interviews in rural Bihar, 300 of women, and 150 men. In rural Bihar, and the same in rural Uttar Pradesh. And so the key findings from this, as we go along, I can share on different domains, but the key finding really was that men still think that this is about dirty blood. It's about the woman having to, so it was linked more to a disease that it happens every month, but it wasn't considered by most men as a healthy bodily function. That if a woman, for purposes of lineage, it's essential that the woman has regular periods. So that was the key sort of finding that we got from there. And we spoke to our co-host, our hosts, the policymakers, etc., got them to understand the difference between menstrual hygiene and menstrual health. I consider that as quite a sort of good outcome of this research, because you cannot interchangeably use hygiene and health. Hygiene is important in this process, but it has connotations. You can see hygiene, it has connotations of unclean. You're trying to address that. It's not about that. It's one aspect of it, but not all. So we got them absolutely to say, no, you must use menstrual health. The policy needs to be on menstrual health. Hygiene is a component of it and not the other way around. So that was a good outcome. So if you ask me, as we go along, I'll pull out more findings from here.
Yeah, it is very inspiring, very enlightening findings. Thank you so much. We need to hear more, but here I like to add few points. When we had a Bad Man movie or the Oscar-winning documentary in the period, or the global movement, more focus on hygiene, more focus on the pad. As you said, pad is important. They created the space in the global movement, but they are not really looking towards the dignity of the menstruators. I just come from the school, which is the private school, very urban setting in Nepal. And then when I asked about the status of the menstrual blood, almost all students, there were like 150 students, and they all raised the hands for voting the menstrual blood is dirty and impure. So we never even talk about the menstrual blood. We talk about the uterus, we talk about the contraceptive, we talk about the how could we get the babies C-section or hysterectomy, that kind of things, more prone to medical and the business perspective, but we are not touching the menstruation and its social dimension, political dimension, economical dimension in our conversation, academically as well as the activism. Thank you very much. It's really a social concern, no doubt on that. I like to hear more findings because you see you highlighted the differences between hygiene and health, and in between there is the main indicator is dignity. Would you share how do we recognize the home or the schools or the workplace is dignified menstruation friendly, or what is the indicators for you to call the menstrual dignity or dignified menstruation?
That's a really interesting, a very good question. So I can at some point in this talk also share what we did at the end of that study, interviews, about 1,000 people we had, that we compiled a set of dignity indicators for improving menstrual health. So for example, if we feel that let's say our menstrual health descriptor is to have a dignified life free from shame, because in our interviews when we asked the women what you feel, etc. So there was a very strong underpinning of feeling. It's a feeling of shame, worthlessness. I can't do this. I feel weak. I have to sit inside. I can't. So there was this feeling of helplessness, of shame. That's what that came out. So from that, we found, whereas if you tell people that, this is, do you realize that this is what an essential part, body function this is? Without this, not just your well-being, it's about the society, your family expects the lineage to continue. You can't really have children if you don't have regular periods. In fact, one of the findings, based on the findings, we developed street theater, street plays, and we acted out these findings in the village square, because we found there was sparse participation in some villages, especially from men. So we took these findings and we crafted sort of as a narrative for street plays. So one of the narratives was that the father-in-law and the mother-in-law take the daughter-in-law and the son to a doctor, saying that she's been married for 3 years and she doesn't have any children. The first thing the doctor asks is, does she have regular period? And the father-in-law gets very upset, saying that you don't have any, you don't have, like in Hindi, you would say, sharam nahi aa rahi aapko, You are
Yeah.
talking like this in front of me. This is not an issue that you talk in front of male members. And so this is the doctor, the lady doctor, tells him to, she gets angry. She says, you want her to have a child. Do you not know that without this, she cannot have a child? And unless she's healthy, she's having regular periods, there's no way she can have. And this woman, of course, had problems and all. She wasn't telling anybody because it's not spoken anywhere. And so this doctor explains to him, tries to interview him and question him and say, do you know what this is about? And why should I not be speaking in front of you? And if you're not concerned, why are you here? So anyway, this was, just to get people to think, engage with the issue as a societal concern and not just as something that is a disease, that is something that only happens to women. And yes, it happens to women, but it's got a wider impact on the society. So if for our aim was to have a dignified life free from shame for the woman, then actually before this we asked the women to define what do they understand by dignity. And the translation was quite interesting because in Hindi, there is samman, but there is also self-respect, what you atma samman. So the difference between the two, and then we found that in dignity, the atma samman is more what you think about yourself. So if you are having if you're going through menstruation, it's not your atma samman is, the feeling of worthlessness comes in. So they defined it, okay, so we want to reduce that feeling of worthlessness. You're having a period, you have to feel good. I have regular periods, I am healthy, I can bear children. So getting that, so this was the descriptor. And we started an indicator, we've created indicators, and it's a dashboard system. So it's green, orange, red. So if you ask, like, for example, say a group of women, or let's say if an organization uses these set of dignity indicators, and they go and talk to women and they say, okay, so if first indicator is girls don't feel worthless, embarrassed, stressed during a period, and they ask 50 girls. Now, if the data comes out that, over about 75% of them say, no, I don't feel stressed, I don't feel worthless, that means it's in green. That's good. They don't have that means it's towards it's dignified menstrual. It's an indicator that is showing there is practice of dignified menstruation in that village. At the same time, some in some village it can be orange, so it's around the 50-60% of girls only say, yeah, we don't feel worthless. But we do have a village where actually 71% felt that I have feeling of worthlessness, I feel ashamed of myself, I can't get out of the house during menstrual. So that's where the intervention comes in. So this is the purpose of that dignity indicators. So anybody interested, etc., can get in touch with you for an organization to adopt these indicators and just to see where you can have an intervention. And again, see, feeling of worthlessness will not go by providing free sanitary products. That helps. That definitely helps. But it won't do away with this feeling of worthlessness. So in schools, you can provide free sanitary products. In schools, you can have good cleaning water facilities, changing facilities. It'll improve attendance. And that's really good. But that feeling of worthlessness will not go unless the societal norms are engaged with. We unpack that and also talk to men, because for those 5 days, everybody knows, oh, you don't need to go near this, you don't need to go near this, you are untouchable during that time. So that was the dignity indicators. We believe it's a great way. We could see, and some of the organizations we've discussed this with, they thought that this is something that they could adopt to see how we can improve dignified menstruation.
Thank you so much. I can see your passion and commitment towards the dignified menstruations, and we are the same tribe. I always think that in the beginning, I also started to work from the hygiene. But later I realized, no, it's not about the hygiene. And later, menstrual health, even the health, if we say health, hygiene, we cannot bring the worthlessness. That is very important, the fundamental human rights, the principle of the human rights. So something, if we achieve something dignity, that guarantee the hygiene, that guarantee the health, that guarantee the education, it guarantee everything, like including climate change. And but I had a very bitter experience from the friend, both from global north and global south. I received the message in WhatsApp group message, in email, group email, and also the Facebook message. Most of the friends, scholars, even academia, they blame that this is the menstrual dignity or dignified menstruation is a very vague idea, and this is how we are creating confusion to the government, policymakers, and media. So this is how we, Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, receiving complaints, blaming, challenges, however you define. So in this condition, how do you situate yourself that you are working for the dignified menstruation, or your non-negotiable principle is dignified menstruation? Would you elaborate a little bit with examples? The last example was so powerful. Even you did not find in the textbook in the University of East London. I bet it. It's a very powerful story. I had a goosebump. So can you share that kind of experiences, and let's enlighten our audience who are watching us right now and in future?
Okay, so this is, I'll try, you see how the perception is here in UK, and I'll give a couple of examples of that. So it's only, here, like in most countries, when you buy anything, there's a tax, there's a levy and you pay on it. So here it's called VAT, value added tax. And on luxury products, it's even more. So the up till 2021, sanitary products were taxed at the luxury product rates. So can you imagine that sanitary pads and tampons were considered luxury items, and the government taxed them at that rate? So it's only in 2021 that now there is a legislation being passed that no, these are not luxury items, these are actually essential items, and so you remove that tax. So can you imagine in this country, the suffragette movement of 1900 and in the early part of 20th century, resulting in the right to vote for some women, came in 1918, and then in the next following 10 years, all women could vote. In my view, that was also very, very late. However, the right to vote came in almost 100 years back, but women did not have the voice to say that these are sanitary essential products. It's not about luxury. So you can imagine the perception of people here to menstruation is just, I find it very distorted, that you've taken this long to accept that this is not a luxury product. This is so essential. Secondly, I'll hear this campaign, which is good. There are a lot of organizations now working on providing free sanitary products, facilities, etc. This is happening all over, and this is within the period poverty campaign. To me, this framing is, I'm not very comfortable. I'm not very pleased with this framing, because to me, it's again putting it in a deficit framework. that you don't have something, period poverty or something, it's lack of opportunities, the way I define it, or how it's defined within the theoretical framework that I follow, capability approach. So it's lack of opportunities, and it can be in any range. So, but you address that lack of something. But when you call it period poverty, you are addressing something that's, there's something that's missing. So you quickly draw people's attention to, okay, if we provide free sanitary products, we'll address this. You see, then again, it's become a technical issue. So yeah, you provided free sanitary products, you've removed the tax, now you've solved the problem. And so people don't want to engage with that. This is about self-respect. A girl shouldn't have to feel, I have to go and buy this. I can be doing different kinds of sports, etc. And it's absolutely fine. And two other examples that come to my mind is that, Wimbledon, in the tennis tournament, Wimbledon, here, that's the famous tournament that happens here in London every year. Over 100, more than 100, I think it was in 1885 or something, that women started playing in that tournament. They were prescribed as men to wear white clothes. They still wear white clothes. It's only now that last year that a campaign was started. Why should women be allowed to wear, why should women have to wear only white for Wimbledon? Because what if, if a woman can be having her periods, and then there's that stress that it's going to show on her clothes. Why do you not allow any other color? And you see, those white clothes were designed keeping men in mind. But what about the requirements of women? So here, and you find that, no, it's not about the respect that you give to a woman, that there's a different biology that you need to respect, and then you need to create infrastructure that suits that different biology. It's not done. And the last example, very quickly, I'll share with you. Some our universities, putting as researchers, we have to show that this is the research I've done, and this is the impact of that research. So the university has selected this menstrual health project, this research that we did, because we are able to show that it has had good impact, even though it wasn't that big a project. And so it has to go on a plasma screen, what the project was and the impact in like 2 sentences. So I provided all the material, the literature, and then somebody, a copy editor, writes that. So they've come up with saying one line, this, it challenges the stigmatized views on menstrual health, and it empowers women to seek medical treatment. But what is it's not a disease. Why should, I'm not empowering women to seek medical treatment. And this is current, I'm speaking as it's happening. So I've put this person on hold to say, no, this project is not about seeking medical treatment. I'm going to write my own impact and I'll get back to you. But do you see, it's still considered as a deficit, as something that's missing. So, he in his mind probably is being very kind. Oh, women can now say, I need some treatment for menstrual health problems that I have. You think, no, that's not what so do you see the perception here is still about a deficit? So you provide technical solutions to address that deficit.
Yeah, very true. Absolutely agree. And again, your examples are very powerful. The sports, girls always struggling a lot everywhere, and no one talk about it. And many girls, even in the UK, they stop to join the sports after having the menstruation. So we still keep blaming to the menstruators, to girls, women, and the others, but we are not trying to understand the gravity of the menstrual discrimination or menstrual stigma. And by considering the menstrual movement in not only in UK, in Europe or global North, most of the activists and academicians are on site, and since you are in other sites like resistance as I am facing over here, would you share a little bit your challenges while working for the menstrual dignity or dignified menstruation? How do you get the what kind of challenges, what kind of supports you are getting within your university or in the movement? Would you share a little bit about that?
So it's like talking to the converted. So if you have female professors here, you say, great idea. So fantastic. And now we are having, actually, there's a little bit more momentum that's picked up. During the pandemic, we couldn't sort of share our research in person or have big events. We did have some small events or online events, but so in terms of support we are having now, we have started within the university, and a group of us have got together and have framing it as period justice. We don't call it poverty, we are calling it period justice. So we have a period justice event on November 23rd, and I will share the link and you can sort of disseminate it as far while. And one of the things we are wanting to do is talk to the university human resource people and say, what is it that you have done about the menstrual justice concern at the university? I know they've started, as in most places in UK, you have free menstrual products that are available. So probably they will come and say, oh, look, we are doing these sort of free menstrual product bags that are, and I've taken a couple of pictures now that they are available. But my suspicion is not very many students know about it because they don't talk about it. Because I'm engaged with this issue, I see it when I saw it in one of the toilets that I went to use, I took a picture. See, the minute you start to talk about it, because if the head of HR, who's a man, starts talking about it, you are entering into the menstrual dignity territory. You providing the bag is a technical fix, but talking about it, why you are doing it, how people can, to inform people that this is our policy, that's where you engage with the menstrual dignity. So we are pushing them to do. We've invited the head of HR to come and speak to us. And then one of my colleagues, Professor Gargi Bhattacharya, she is going to be getting people to do some activity on, talking from period justice to a period manifesto. So every organization, what must you do so that people are informed about it? And then people know how to use it with self-respect. So, some activities, but as I said, it's mostly to people who are bothered with these issues of social injustice that we are engaging. So we hope to, take it to a higher level as well and engage more people. So that's some, in our own way, something small, but every step counts. Every time, and in this, the events, we ensure that we are inviting all students, male and female both. The head of HR, we will insist, don't send anybody, you come, because he's a male. So or any representative that comes, we'll say, no, you should come. So yeah, that's what, little bit in our own way, doing little bits here.
Wonderful, congratulations. You are super smart. I like the idea of the period justice. It's a really nice idea. And we also developed some indicators for the dignified menstruation friendly home, dignified menstruation friendly educational institutions, including schools, colleges, and universities, dignified menstruation friendly workplace. That means everything like private organization, restaurants, hotels, and banks or any public offices, because we see the dignified menstruation as a life cycle approach. While you are talking about the EHR, many of us are on the phase of the perimenopause and menopause, and constantly we interacting with the such kind of mensurators at home, at school, at university, and then all the time we keep blaming to the women. Oh, women are weaker. That is why they are getting the less pay. So in one way, we are fighting a lot for the equal salary, for the equal work, minimizing the gender pay gap. The other side, we are not talking about the menstruation, perimenopause and menopause. So how could we get the dignified menstruation? So sometimes we keep wondering, we all are looking for the gender equality, and why do we call male, female, and transgender people? Why don't we call directly mensurators and non-mensurators? If we call mensurators, everyone come across like disability, mensurate the disability, menstruation, disaster, pandemics, Ebola, everywhere, all the time. We cannot imagine the world without the mensurators, and we cannot imagine without the dignified menstruation. It's like two sides of the coin. And in this situation, whatever you are doing, as you said, every step counts. Yes, it really counts. And we are here for the 1,000-mile journey of dignified menstruation, and we are pushing here and there from different corners, and at least able to make the digest about the word menstrual dignity or dignified menstruation. They don't like to hear. When I was in UK, I got so many bad feedbacks that they don't like to talk about the menstrual dignity. And now we have the colleagues. You are making the noise over there, and it's really very nice. And while going through the book Period Matters, only you and me talking about the dignified menstruation. And many scholars, many friends, they protect. There is a very clear need of the dialogue on dignified menstruation, but they interpret in a different way, and they just how could I say? I think it's a bad word, misinterpretation of the context. The situation of the mensurators, how much they are suffering systemically and symptomatically. That kind of stories as twisted and presented in other way around, and that really hurt me. So this is the very high time to speak about the dignified menstruation. And while we talk about the dignified menstruation, as you shared earlier from your research, not allowed to do the puja or worship, not allowed to touch the men members or any places. Even in Niger, in Ghana, they are not allowed to go to the farms for harvesting. It's not about only you and me, India and Nepal or South Asia. It's about everywhere. Yesterday, I was speaking with the Sierra Leone youth women activist, and she was saying, during menstruation, we are not allowed to go to the mosque. And then we are not really speaking. We are talking so loudly about the feminism, the women's human rights, CEDAW, human rights, climate justice, and we are not ready to link the climate justice and menstrual discrimination and menstrual dignity. So it's really sad, but we are hopeful, and we should be optimistic, and we can do it. So in this connection, would you little bit highlight how it is very important to have a dialogue since the young age? Because in many countries they are struggling a lot for not I mean, let me say other around the many countries like Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Niger, even Indonesia, Uganda, they are struggling a lot to reduce the child marriage. And if we go through the history, since 1928, globally, there are some acts to end the child marriage, that we reviewed the policies, global policies. But the research showed that the child marriage or the sexual abuse, even the gender-based violence, are not reducing. So in this situation, how do you see the role of the menstrual discrimination to play as a causing factor? Sometimes even in the effect, the menstrual discrimination plays a role of the cause and effect. So how do you see, as academician, how do you see the role of the menstrual discrimination in general, and how do you see the scope of the menstrual discrimination in the research in academia? Because most of the research right now focus on the hygiene, focus on the product, focus on the business, and they are not really looking for the menstrual dignity. I saw two kind of people or the group. One kind of people talking about the women's right. They claim themselves as a feminist, but they are not touching menstrual discrimination or dignified mission. Others more talk about the product, business, and again they are not talking. So you and me, few colleagues are in the middle and pulling here and there, pushing here and there. So how do you see the scope? How do you see the challenges of menstrual discrimination in academia in general and in your context? Sorry, it is
Okay,
very long.
No, so I'll pick out probably 2 or 3 things from here. So
Please.
I will refer to the connections between dignified menstruation and child marriage. I have got some, so I'll share that. But looking at into, when you say 2 categories, in fact, I want to say it's 3 categories. So the third one is trying to have these environmental friendly products. So they're still talking about products, so that's where they connect with climate justice, that you can have these environmental friendly pads, the cloth pads. Guj in India is making it in big time. They provide bags of it, all made out of cloth, to women, and all that is fantastic. That's needed, wonderful. However, while doing research in rural, both rural Bihar and rural Uttar Pradesh, if you go, you see for those pads to be used, reused, you need to wash them. The washing facilities in most villages are in the open square. It's the hand pump, and it's out in the open. Women are very reluctant. They will not do it during daytime when everybody can see, to take a used pad and put it under water to wash it. So where do you wash? How do you wash those pads? See, that's a big issue. I know they would sometimes, like Guj would say, no, we provide a pack. So for the whole cycle, you don't need to wash. You can use all like 9, 10, however many you have to use. Then you can take it, collect it, and it can be washed for the next cycle. That is a good solution. That's a step forward. However, access to washing facilities is a big obstacle in most villages. So they do not. Of course, we in the research we did, we found where do you change, etc. And these environmental friendly pads, because they are not so affordable just yet, they are becoming. So the women weren't really using those, and sometimes people use these cheap, the plastic pads, because they're now, the local ones are quite cheap. But you see, the disposable then causes because they are not biodegradable. Is the dogs in the village then tearing it all, and it's a big mess. They're either digging it, causing harm to the soil. So it's not such a linear issue that you provide environmental friendly pads and you've sorted out that problem. There's, as with the whole issue, it's a very complex issue. There are many factors that shape this practice. So that was about, the third category of sort of people who I do want to say it's a good step, but it's complex and you need to engage with the wider context. Then I do want to just spend a couple of minutes talking about dignified menstruation and child marriage. In India, now India remains, even now, it remains home to the largest number of child brides. In 2006, there is an act that was passed, Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. And they also have many agencies that collect data, so you can report child marriages. So the reporting system has become much better. And to the same agency, so this is PCM, shows that this is cases registered under Prevention of Child Marriage Act, that is the act. And it shows that between 2011 and 2021, there is almost a tenfold increase in the number of child marriages reported. So you can say maybe the child marriages are decreasing, but the reporting has become better because there is now this body that is capturing this data, and that's possible. However, in 2011, it was just 113 cases registered. Now it stands at, in 2021, it was 1,050, over 1,000. So this is just, but in India, this is serious underreporting of child marriages, because you see, who's going to report it? And this work we did in Hisar on the Save the Girl Child, because of the feticide issue there, that work was empowering the girls to know their rights, that the right to marriage, I am still under 18 years, you cannot marry me now. And then to empower them to reach out to this agency to say, I'm being forced to get married, I'm underage, so this is a criminal offense. So that then empowerment about this, firstly about knowing your right, but then also knowing what to do about it if you think it's being violated. So currently India's got about 1.5 million girls each year under 18 get married in India. That's a huge number.
Yeah.
And this is a third of the global total in child marriages. That happens. 16% of adolescent girls between 15 and 19 years are currently married. So you can see this is huge for India. It's a big problem. So I am not I'll share with you.
Please,
there's a video
if you
that
like to share, sorry, if you like to share the slides, you can share it.
Okay, so let me just try and share, because I think it'll be good to see some of this. Okay, so are you able to see the slides now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I urge people to please, this is just some data that, I was just talking about the increase you can see, but I urge people I will share this video link, which is on the left side, Child Marriages India 2006. This is a documentary I show to my students. This is a BBC reporter that goes to Rajasthan, where there are mass child marriages. And then she goes to Andhra Pradesh and sees what is happening. You can see there's such misconceptions on all sides. You see, it's to an outsider, this is a linear issue. Oh, your Child Marriage Act was passed. This is a criminal issue. Put people behind jail. This is the view of the reporter who's got no idea of the context. The officer in charge is trying to argue child marriages are happening, but it's a very complex issue. This is a norm. This is a tradition. There's a dowry issue here. The younger the girl, the less dowry you pay for her. So they get into, first of all, these mass marriages where you have brides from 6 to 11 years of age, or so the older the girl is getting, they would have to pay more dowry. So
Yeah.
and then education costs, because the girl child is not valued. And so the otherwise, if they go on staying, you have to invest in education, which is mostly of no use, etc. But the officer tries to explain that, look, this happens in interior villages. We are trying to educate the people, but putting people in the jail it's not going to solve the problem. So again, I share this with my students to say, the solutions come from that social context. You can't helicopter a solution, say put them in the jail. So I've put the link here, and we can say, I urge everyone to see this video to say what a complex problem this is. In this case, though, where it talks about challenges in so this is the next slide here, if you see. And this is looking into this is my Hisar research, where you see women find early marriages as one of the biggest challenge that they experience in life. So this is coming from women. And actually in this, there is a section on male because we interviewed teenage boys and men, and they also felt that early marriage for women is a big issue. But we know that child marriage happens with both girls and boys. But in most cases, the age difference is so much that the boys could be something like 20 years. The boy could be 20 years getting married to a 10-year, 11-year, 9-year-old girl. So in that video, it shows that. So this is one of the challenges I thought that is linked. But then if you look up, and so I want to visit this also. This is a theater that was formed through the research we did. So these girls in the village were doing something. This is in rural Uttar Pradesh near Raebareli. And we encouraged them to form this theater just for menstrual health messaging. This theater is called Udan, and they then have since 2019, of course, the pandemic stopped the work, but they had already performed in about 15 villages, and they craft these stories from what they talk to women, what is the thinking in the community. And I've put in some of those narratives here. So for example, once a girl has a period, now you're a big girl, you need to learn to do housework. Pay more attention to helping in the household chores, learn to cook, manage the household, cleaning and looking after other members of the family. Help in preparing lunch boxes for your brothers and father. These are the skills that will get you a good family. You have studied enough, there's no need to go to the school anymore. From now on, for 1 week each month, stay at home and not come into the kitchen or the puja ghar. You see, so this becomes, and the narrative that plays, the street theater is constructed around these stories. And these stories, we found out this is what the conversation, if you talk to people, what happens when the daughter has menstrual health. These are the stories that come out from the community, those many villages that we encountered. So what I've got here is a little, so if you look at menstrual health, it's about getting people to understand that it's an essential bodily function for well-being of the girls and women, well-being of the family and lineage of the family. Menstrual health is therefore a societal concern. That's how we try to convince the policymaker or anybody. Say this is a societal concern. It's just no point talking to women. You can do this, you can do that. No, it has to go beyond that. That is good because you'll find that many of these norms, not many, but all norms, the social norms regarding menstrual health are perpetuated by the women in the family. Don't come do this, don't do this. That's gone them. So we need to talk, of course, engage with them, but it's the wider society. So girls, women need better nutrition and care, not stigmatized exclusion from day-to-day activities. And it's about something about instilling a sense of pride in having good menstrual health, as in having good health. If we are healthy, you feel good. I can do this, I can do, being healthy is something to be proud of, something to feel good in any society. So asking to get a sanitary pad or sanitary product, it should be the same as getting any other essential that you need to function normally, to function effectively. So this let me stop sharing. So we thought, some of the ways that you can connect dignified menstrual health to good health, to living, to the well-being of the girl, the family, etc. I think that connection somehow is not made in most discourses. It's somehow menstrual health is equated with provision of technical input. So free period, like in UK, you have free sanitary products available everywhere now. You will have the taxes gone, which is fantastic. It's just, I mean, you would think it's stupid that you think that sanitary products are luxury products. You know, think, why is it taken all this time? So these are good, but you really need to be engaging with issues beyond this if we want the holistic health of the woman and the family and the society.
Yeah, very true. I have learned a lot. It's like I'm sitting in front of you in a classroom of the university.
Oh, that's very
Thank you
kind
so
of you.
much. Yeah, as you said, while we talk about the child marriage, I always see the pushing and pulling factors. And first, as we discussed earlier, the girls should feel pride or worthy within is a being a girl. That kind of feelings play a lot to construct the power and the patriarchy within herself and in the society. And that part we are missing. While working for ending child marriage, globally we review the policies and we find out that the NGOs working for making the policies for putting the bride into the jail or parents into the jail, or giving some scholarship schemes or livelihood schemes to the parents to eradicate the poverty, or engaging or mobilizing the traditional or religious leaders so they can stop. But these all is still the kind of sympathetic or charity approach. These kind of activities really don't boost the morale, don't boost the self-respect, as you shared already. So to us, the menstrual discrimination is a key factor for constructing and socializing power and patriarchy, and that perpetrated the different kinds of gender-based violence, sexual violence, including HIV and child marriage. And right now, global community is prioritizing to ending the child marriage. It is a priority for the SDG as well. Many countries set the target, like Bangladesh target end of child marriage by the end of the 2040, in Nepal 2030. So likewise, many countries set the targets for ending the child marriage, but the intervention is the same. They are not changing their strategies. They are not redefining their causal factors for the child marriage. So this is how we urge to have a dialogue on dignified menstruation, or dismantle the menstrual perception and practices which are really harmful to the girls, family, and the society. Unless and until we don't link the menstrual dignity in the ending child marriage intervention, we cannot achieve. This is how we thought. And in this connection, for this International Dignified Menstruation Day, we choose the theme like dignified menstruation for ending the child marriage. And we have been organizing so many activities around it. We are collecting the video messages, the poems, songs, and also the articles for the blog in any language, and poster pamphleting, because we feel like we are in isolation. We need to fight with the UN, we need to fight with the academia, we need to fight with the donors, we need to fight with our colleagues who are struggling like us to change the narratives around menstruation and around gender-based violence and around reproductive health and around gender equality. Unless and until we are not ready to redefining our exist practice and perception, I think we cannot achieve the overarching goal of the gender equality. So now we are very close to our time. As an academician and also the activist, you are, I see you are the activist as well. What would be your suggestion to make the noise, to amplify the theme of this year of Dignified Menstruation Day? Would you
think,
yeah.
So I think simple messaging of the simpler messages we keep, the more people we will be able to connect with. And, you know, if we can just convince or just reach out in saying look, dignified menstruation means, it's about the girl not feeling stress, etc. The bullet points that I was trying to show there, that just in simple words,
Yeah.
and reaching out to as many people, both men and women, that it's the health of the woman, it's the well-being of the family, it's the well-being of and it's about the lineage in the family. I thought those three messages are, they go a long way, that suddenly people realize that this is about yeah, so
Go
we
ahead.
might need to, yeah, so can you hear the noise? Okay, so it's about really ending, just taking that message to as many people, and just having more and more small events, bite-sized events begin. And I think bite-sized events have a longer, bigger impact than one day long events. So I would just say simple messaging, connecting dignified menstruation to well-being of the woman, child, family, and the lineage of the family. I think we just have to make this effort. Baby steps go a long way, and we should really feel good that we are taking these steps. So
Bravo.
thank you so much, Radha.
Bravo. Thank you so much. It's really, really very inspiring, very powerful conversation we have. For December 8th, Sri Lanka chapter, Biluthu, also will be organizing one-day conference, and I encourage to submit the abstract, to present the papers, and also participate the conference. And in between, we will have so many conversation with so many friends, including yours. And let's continue the dialogue on dignified menstruation. One day we'll make our daughters, granddaughters free from any kind of menstrual discrimination, and they will live
Thank
with
you.
the full dignity.
Yes.
So thank you so much. It's a great honor.
Thank you.
And
yes.
It's a true blessing to have you in our global conversation of dignified mission, not only the now, even for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Radha.